God offers us no choice. The enemy offers all the choices. And at first this may sound like a very negative comment to make, but hear me out. You'll understand what I mean. God offers us no choice except himself because he is sufficient. He should be sufficient. He should be sufficient for us in every way. There's really no requirement for anything else. He fulfills all requirements, including safety, provision, healing, prophetic insight. It goes on and on. The enemy has a cadre, a third of the angels, remember, a cadre of greedy, destructive, desiring to control, power-hungry, sinful, dastardly beings who all have an ideology to lay out on the world. The enemy has really, in order for him to try to govern, try to stay in control, in order for him to be the one that controls, he had to offer his generals something. And for each, he gave a principality, he gave a stronghold, he gave a something, right, which has manifested in the form of a religion connected to an idol. So people on earth are worshiping this being, this demonic entity from behind this idol that they go and stand and bow to on an ongoing and regular basis. This is what they call the 70 beings, or the 70 spirits, the 70 governors and their principalities. 70 meaning that they not only are 70, but that they are the complete number, the complete set. The enemy has a strong determination to control. And for that reason, there are 70 options of how you can have an encounter with the spirit world. You can have some of the spirituality of the world offered by these very terrible beings, these fallen angels, who will soon present themselves to be extraterrestrial and having been the originators and architects of the world. But of course we know that that's not true. It's all a lie. It's a big deception. But they offer everything. You name the religion, and that's what they're offering, right? I'm not going to mention all the religions here. I think you know all of the religions of the world. Obviously, the faith, the true faith, was the first time that the nation of Israel was communicated to by the living God. For the first time, who began to historically document who this creator was. There's only one creator. We can understand that, right? The world was created by one being. And of course, the enemy wants to take credit for this. They want to say, well, we were there at the inception when we saw this being, creator, God, do it. We were there too. We were part architects. But they aren't. They weren't. They can't create anything. They're not creators. It's very clear, biblically. You got to remember, I've read everything, 45 religious books and counting. I'm still continually reading up on religions and trying to find their documents, their books. And I have found many of these religions that I've read about, and I know them quite well. I don't know them as a practicing being, as somebody who practices this darkness, but I know them well from the perspective of I've been able to debate them. I've been able to talk to people about them and what they believe, right? I have read everything from the Sumerian tablets through to the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, through to, you name them, I could mention them, but I purposefully don't want to mention them. There's a lot of reasons for it, right? I just don't want to call into question all these other religions that we all know are counterfeit and fake and basically underpinned and controlled by demonic control. So what I'm saying is that we are getting to see, and have been seeing for a very long time now, that this enemy has been displaying all of its many choices. So you can go into the world, and if you don't want to believe in God, you turn away from God. You decide, I don't want the accountability that comes with the Christian faith, right? I just don't want it. It's too intense. I just don't want to do that. But what I do want is I want some spirituality. So I'll pick from a smorgasbord of 70 religions, and each one of these makes me feel good about myself, makes me feel like I'm having some kind of a spirit-filled encounter. But it's not, there's no accountability. I don't have to account for anything. And some of them have got sort of small little degrees of accountability, but they're not the true faith. They're not the true communication that God had 5,781 years ago, with the inception of the Bible. Right? It's people, as we know from all these other religions that came afterwards, these religions, that they all have some chip on their shoulder about Jesus Christ. They all have some chip on their shoulder about God himself, Yad-He Vav-He, Yahweh. They all have an issue with this creator, right? This creator who created things, who created everything, stood aside for the 6,000-year experiment, right? The enemy said, I can do this better than you can. I can govern the world better than you can. I can govern humanity better than you can. And God said, you know what? There are too many angels watching, standing by, looking to see what I'm about to do. And if I don't ever allow this experiment to run its course, I'm always going to be criticized. I'm always going to be thought of as a tyrant. They will always think that the enemy, this rebellious Lucifer, may have had a point. They will always believe that he could have done the job better. So I'm going to let this plan roll out. I'm going to let the 6,000 years unfold so we can see what happens under a rebellious leader of my worship team here in heaven. I'm going to allow someone else to run the show for a bit under several laws. There's going to be laws. There's going to be a legal framework under which he must operate, and that's it, right? But because I know if I leave it to him, because he hates humanity so much, he hates the fact that we are made in God's image, right? That we have God's DNA. We have God's shorthand signature, his Rembrandt inside of our DNA. He will destroy humanity. Give him the first chance that he's physically got to stand in front of humanity, he will obliterate mankind. He will just obliterate people. So I'm not going to allow that. But I'm going to allow him to show us what he thinks is the best way to manage and govern humanity. And let's see how it goes. And the rest is history. We now know what's happened. What I love about the Bible is that it both tells us, believing Christians, those who love our Lord Jesus Christ, exactly what's happened, what is occurring today, and what's coming very clearly, and still keeps it inscrutable from the enemy's probing eyes. In fact, the enemy learns from us as we get to decipher and understand what seems to be the inscrutability, yet all things are revealed to those who seek him and love him, right? It is the glory of God to keep things hidden, and it is our glory, the glory of kings, to seek out a matter, search out a matter. We start to realize we know truths that the enemy doesn't know. The enemy has no taste for Jesus Christ. The enemy has no interest whatsoever in God. And for that reason, what he does, very simply, very cleanly and clearly, what he does is he 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 places himself in this zone where he just absolutely desires to destroy humanity in some way or another. But first, he, along the way, he has to provide humanity with entertainment and the arts and the sciences and all of those things, because that's how he gets his technology, his nanotech made, so that he can infiltrate the bloodstream, the DNA, with nanobots, nanotechnology, CRISPR technology, that in essence is going to change our DNA. It's going to rewrite our DNA so that God's name is taken out of our DNA. God's name is taken out of our DNA and is replaced by the enemy's name. He doesn't even care about he'll have his name on people's foreheads and right hands. He's not as interested in having our name. He's not that interested in having his name in our DNA. I think that's a little bit too hard. He just wants to shkangalyar. And shkangalyar means to mess it up. He just wants to really destroy it. He just doesn't want that name, Yad He Vav He 10565, in our DNA strands at all. And so we have come to that juncture in time and space where we're now about to look at the possibility of experiencing the end times. This generation, the generation that shall see a nation formed in a day, shall experience the end of days. And ringside seats, I guess. I mean, this is really what we're talking about. But the enemy has all of this smorgasbord of religions that it's offering, and he's pretty much got billions of people in the bag. He's got their souls in a bag. And how do we get the message out, the gospel, to as many of these people as possible, especially when they are so convolutedly entangled in their religions that they can't see beyond? They just can't see. All right? They cannot see beyond their religion. They can't see beyond it. Which is very, very intriguing, because, the more I know about life, the more I realize that it's a war. It has always been a war. God doesn't offer any choice. He says, I am it. I am sufficient. I'm going to be the best thing that's ever happened to you. I will love you. I'll take care of you. I'll protect you. The war is mine. I've won it. I'm going to have rulership over the earth. Jesus Christ will operate and rule, govern from Jerusalem, and the most expensive piece of real estate on earth. But what's going to happen, right? What is going to happen? So, but the enemy has to offer all his demonic principalities other options. He's got to offer them other options, because he realizes that humanity is easily bored, easily distracted, and there must be so much choice that people really are so confused that whatever they get, they settle on, and that's what it is. They don't want to go further than that. The simplicity of the gospel is just too perfect and too pure and too amazing, and so true, that people need to have the deception. Those who want to believe a lie, God will send a great delusion. And that's where we're at this moment in time. And this is one of the reasons why the enemy has so many offerings, so much that he offers that is potentially an option for humanity. And God only has himself. He's the only option that we need.